Hello everyone. This video is just meant to be a review of what we did in class on Friday. So some of your homework problems, you have to find all of the roots of a polynomial, and they don't tell you what to divide by. So if this is the case, your first step is just going to be to guess a root value. So in order to guess a root value, we're actually going to use the factor theorem, which says that if the remainder is 0, then it must be a root, or x minus the number is a factor. Well, the way we check the remainder quickly is by plugging in the value. So we're just going to guess different values. I typically start with 1, but you can start with whatever you would like. So we plug in 1, we get 1 cubed plus 6 times 1 squared minus 12 times 1 minus 8. If you do that quickly, that is 1 plus 6, which is 7, minus 12, which is negative 5, minus 8 is negative 13. Well, that's not equal to 0, so 1 is not a root. So just guess again. I'll guess 2. So if I plug in 2, I'm going to get 2 cubed plus 6 times 2 squared minus 12 times 2 minus 8. This comes out to be 8 plus 24 minus 24 minus 8. And so that actually does end up being 0. So what that means is that 2 is a root, and x minus 2 is a factor. Well, now once you know one of the roots, one of the factors, you can go ahead and do synthetic division. And we're actually going to use that same number. So synthetic division. And the number we're going to put in the box is the root. And so we're going to put 2 in the little box, get all the coefficients. Coefficient of x cubed is 1. Coefficient of x squared is 6. X is negative 12. And then negative 8 is all by itself. Carry, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. And you should get that this number is 0 because this is supposed to be a root. So now this comes out to be x squared plus 8x plus 4. And so now if we go ahead and try to figure out all of the roots, we can write this as a polynomial. So f of x, the function that I started with up here, I can rewrite as x squared plus 8x plus 4. And next to that, I'm going to put x minus 2, the factor that we know. Now, the next thing you would do is try to factor this. So we need to find a number that multiplies to 4 and adds to 8. Two numbers, sorry. And so 4 and 1 don't add up to 8. 2 and 2 don't add up to 8. So I know we didn't do one like this in class, but if we can't factor this, the only way that we can solve this is using the quadratic formula, actually. So instead of factoring, I'm going to do the quadratic formula on this, and coming over here to do that. X is going to be equal to the opposite of b, so negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 64, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 4, all over 2a, which is 2. So this is going to come out to be negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 16. And 64 minus 16 is 46. Sorry, 48. And so we get square root of 48 over 2. Now we can't take the square root of 48 perfectly, but 48, try to think of perfect squares that go in it. 4 goes into it, but 16 also goes into it. And so this ends up becoming negative 8 plus or minus. We can pull out the square root of 16. which is 4, square root of what's left, 3, all over 2. Now hopefully at this point you recognize that some of the stuff cancels, and so we lose this. This we're left with a 2, this we're left with a 4, and so we get negative 4 plus or minus 2 root 3. So there are 2 of our roots, the other one is 2. So you get 2, negative 4 plus 2 root 3, and negative 4 minus 2 root 3. And so this one's a little bit different than your homeworks. Your homeworks, you're going to want to factor this. But since we can't factor, that's why I did the quadratic formula.